Once upon a summer's morning in 1969, Grandpa led the singing in church, the light of Sunday gleaming on his silvery head through the open windows. Our voices sailed over our town.
Then we bowed our heads and prayed for the astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin Jr., and Michael Collins.
If all went well, a spaceship would land on the moon today. And I dreamed that maybe one day I could go to the moon too. Bay's Gramps thought the space program was a waste of money, but I knew he was praying for them too.
May thought about the astronauts' kids and wondered if they were scared but proud.
I knew I'd be. She slipped her hand into her dad's and whispered so that no one else could hear. God, please bless the astronauts' children too.
Once upon a summer's noon,
My cousins and I scouted Grand's watermelon patch for the biggest one. It took 3 of us to carry it to a tub of ice. Well, counting my littlest cousin Lacey, it took us 3 1/2.
We decorated the table with pails of wildflowers.
When our chores were done, we built our own spaceship from scraps we found in the barn.
T-minus 15 seconds. 12, 11, 10, 9.
As the oldest grandchild, May got to be the launch controller and Commander Armstrong.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have liftoff. We closed our eyes, imagining with all our might the rumble, the roar, and the force of the Saturn rocket, blasting the spaceship into the stars.
then we were rushing out of space at 25,000 miles per hour.
I wonder how many miles it is to the moon. May had been reading the moon stories in the paper, so she knew. About 240,000 miles. Some scientists say it's moving away from us an inch or so farther every year.
May also knew that in May 1961, President John F. Kennedy had said America would send men to the moon before the decade was out.
Now that President Kennedy is in heaven, I wonder if he can see the astronauts. Is he smiling to know his dream was about to come true?
That afternoon, we were helping Gramps with the tractor when Gran hollered, "Come quick, they're landing!"
Gramps kept right on tinkering with the engine. We ran pell-mell for the house and squirmed around the television screen.
We heard the voice of Commander Armstrong directing the landing. Forward, forward.
Then the newsman we all knew, Walter Cronkite, exclaimed, "Man on the moon!"
For a split second, we were silent. The universe must have been, as we waited to hear the voice of an astronaut 240,000 miles away. And then,
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
boy, did we cheer, all the cousins and even the grown-ups, all except Gramps.
I remember something he'd once said.
Why spend all that money to go to the moon when there's so many folks in need right here on Earth?
I almost shouted, "Because we can," but I caught myself. I began to wonder then what Grant's dreams had been. From the time he was little, he had worked on the farm, doing the same jobs day to day, season to season.
When the crickets began to sing, Gramps took out his pipe. May pulled off his dirt-caked boots for him and stomped around the porch in them.
Gramps, will you watch it with me tonight, the moonwalk?
I'm mighty worn out today, but maybe.
Suddenly, I could see how tired he was, lifetime tired.
There were deep lines in his face, a farmer's face. an old farmer's face.
All right, Gramps, it's okay. What I could see above me and what I could see in my imagination were better than any picture show.
We passed around a bowl of popcorn.
Later on that summer night in 1969, the television screen flashed with words that gave me goosebumps. Live from the surface of the moon.
And Mr. Kirk said,
Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon on this July 20th, 1969. I didn't know it then, but there were 600 million people the world over watching with me and listening when Commander Armstrong said,
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
all of us watched it together, the astronauts bounding across the moon like ghosts on a trampoline.
I felt a hand on my shoulder.
I reckon that's something to remember.
Later, when it was quiet as the world ever gets, Gramps and May stood together under the moon. What's mankind?
It's all of us who've ever lived, all of us still to come.
Just think, Gramps, if they could go to the moon, maybe one day I could too.
Great days, an astronaut in the family, who'd have thought?
I smiled in the dark. My Gramps was proud of me.
First airplane I ever saw, I was your age, was right over yonder, there in the cornfield. That was something to see. Oh boy, something to see. A sigh in Gramps' voice made May's heart squeeze. Keep on dreaming, May. Just remember, we're here now together on the prettiest star in the heavens.
Gramps had looked at the moon all of his life. It told him when to plant and when to harvest. And once upon a summer's night, it told me to dream.